Jennifer, awesome to have you here. Welcome to the Building Builders podcast. Excited to be chatting with yourself today. Would love to learn more about you, and just welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Jennifer, you've got a super impressive background, starting as a construction admin, and moving into being a founder and president at LMS Contractors. You also graduated from law school while starting the business, which is really, really interesting. I want to dive in more there. Can you tell us just a little bit about your story and how this has all come to be?
Sure. I think you did a great summation, but I'll chime in and say that I definitely I had no plans of joining the construction field, and it just really happened. For me, I just transitioned out of college and I said, I need a job. Started off at working for a demolition firm and just fell in love with it. And 15 years later, I'm still here. So it's been definitely a wild ride, but I have absolutely no regrets.
Tell me about the transition from working at a construction company to, being a founder and president. Surely that was a pretty big intentional step, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't really my choice initially. I was living in Los Angeles and really wanted to grow within my career, and I started seeking out employment with various companies across the Los Angeles area. And what I found was that there wasn't anyone who looked like me age-wise, race-wise, being a woman. It was just very few people in the roles that I attempted to do. And so my husband was like, why don't you just do your own business? And I was just like, how am I going to do that? He's just like, you already have a company. Just do it. And so after interviewing with 7 different companies, and they basically said yeah, we'll hire you, but not for the position that you want. You really have to grow into that position, or, you need more training and this and that. And it's just I already know it. So why would I need to start at a lower level versus just starting with what I know? So I really just kind of just forced my hand to just say, hey, let me just do my own thing and see what happens. And if nothing else, I can always go and make the transition to go back to working for someone else. And let's see, we're almost at 10 years now. And so that hasn't happened yet. So
I hear this from so many entrepreneurs, and, even myself in the past, that the biggest hurdle, I personally think, is just getting started. You'll never be 100% prepared. There's always going to be some kind of surprise, but it's kind of just getting over that hurdle and actually going for it, getting that first customer.
Yeah. All the research that you can do, all the books, all the tutelage and mentorship, it means nothing, because there are going to be so many questions that come along the way that you're not going to even think to answer until you start. Right. So you have to start to even know what you think the problem is not even the problem. It's everything that happens after you start of, how do you hire people? How do you fire people? How do you get working capital? How do you identify what your skill sets are, what your weaknesses are, who your client is. So none of that can be discovered until you actually start doing the work.
So tell me more about LMS. What do you guys do?
We do demolition and environmental services. So we do everything with asbestos, lead, mold, COVID-19. And a lot of our work is with public agencies over the years. The last couple of years since COVID has kind of transitioned to more private clientele, but we still do a lot of public and federal work. And we're talking hotels, schools, state agencies, federal agencies, and things like that.
What type of equipment are you using for these projects?
I wish I was using yours. You should just come on and bring it down to Florida. But a lot of what we're dealing with, bobcats and excavators, primarily is our go-to machines.
Gotcha. Do you get into high reaches as well?
It depends. We do, for some asbestos work. Yeah, we do high reach machines.
Nice. love those machines. They're so impressive. Yeah, just capable of so much. So
I only
I
know
told
how
you.
to operate a skitzer. That's as good as I've
Oh,
gotten.
really?
Yeah, that's it. So
Wheeled or track machine?
the willed.
Wheel
So
machine.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's as good as it's gotten for me so far. But I guess if I spend more time with it, then I could put that on my resume too one of these days, equipment operator.
The more we work in Florida, the more we learn that wheeled skid steers are not the norm. There's uh, compact track loaders everywhere, but less and less wheeled skid steers. Up here in Ontario, wheeled skid steers are everywhere. People use them for snow removal, but
Yeah.
I'm guessing
Uh,
it's probably you sink
we
in the
do some
sand or
dirt
something.
work too, so we do some site work. So yeah.
Awesome. So tell me
What's your
more
favorite?
about.
I was going to ask you,
Per-
what's your favorite machine?
oh boy, that is such a good question. Uh, hmm, that is such a good question. It's either an excavator, like a mid-size, somewhere between like an 8 ton and a 20-ton excavator with a hydraulic rotating bucket,
Hmm.
or I actually really like a 3 yard articulating wheel loader. I used to drive those a lot when we were snow plowing. So yeah, they're
Nice.
just really comfortable and tons of power. The power matches the size of the machine really well. Yeah,
And that's
feels like an
nothing that a
extension,
man
you
would
know?
ever love. No man would ever love that. So yeah, I get you.
Right. Uh, so tell me more about going to law school. While starting a company, that's so interesting. How
Uh,
did you make that decision?
it was really a decision that I kind of made even before I started LMS. Uh, Initially, I thought that I was going to go to law school, and I actually did. While living in Los Angeles, I went and did my 1L, and the focus just wasn't there. I had too much going on. There were just too many responsibilities and obligations I had at the time, and so I actually dropped out. And when I decided to start LMS, I said,
Mhm.
okay, if I'm going to do it, I've got to do it now. Because as a woman in the industry, as a minority in the industry, I mean, as a small business, there are so many upheavals that you deal with in the industry, and people don't realize how litigious construction can be,
Mhm.
especially when you're talking about New York or California. Those are super, super heavy. They have so many regulations. And so I just made the commitment. I saw the treatment that small businesses got and minority businesses received, not having proper counsel. When you're talking about doing a job, you've got people on the job, you're losing money. So you don't have time to go
Right.
and hire a lawyer and say, "Hey, let me brief you on what's going on out here," because you don't want to get hit with liquidated damages. You're talking wasted payroll. I've seen all
Right.
these things. And so I didn't want to be that statistic. And so for me, it was just imperative. It was a no brainer like, hey, if you're going to start a business, you have to protect yourself. And I made the decision to attend law school.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where do you think it comes in the most? Is it um, like in the estimating? Is it in reducing liability? On the job sites. What what is the what is the highest impact area?
I would say it's everywhere. Because anytime that you are working on your business, you need to be thinking from a strategic standpoint. And the best thing that law school really did for me was take out the emotion. When you start a
Right.
business, this is your baby. This is your child. You're nurturing it from birth and to see it grow. And we can make a lot of mistakes when we are thinking from an emotional standpoint, or if we're taking things as in
Right.
a personal attack or an offense towards us or our business. And going to law school just allowed me to kind of take myself out of the equation and make it so that when I'm working with people, I'm thinking about, yes, my best interest, of course, but I'm also thinking about what's fair and how can
Right.
we ensure that everyone is safe? How can we ensure that the contract terms meet? How can we ensure that we have the best safety and that the employees are feeling heard and their contracts are reflective of the work that they're doing? So there's so many aspects that it comes into. I mean, even bidding the project, making sure that you understand the scope of which you are responsible for completing. there's so many aspects that my law degree has helped me in, and so I have no complaints.
Would you say this is a competitive advantage for yourself and for LMS having
Yeah,
this degree?
I
Yeah.
definitely would say there is a competitive advantage to having a law degree. One, people are more inclined to pay you on time because they're just like,
Right.
oh. And then two, it's like no one wants to fight with someone when it's like, I am my own in-house counsel. If it worst case scenario, if I had to go and hire someone, I could still do the work and they would just stamp their name on it. It's like, do you really want to spend the money going to court for that? The good thing about it is we've not had those issues. We have great relationships with our clients and our GCs. And so that, knock on wood, has not occurred at this time.
We talk to all kinds of entrepreneurs on here, and some big, some small, some just getting started out. What would your advice be to those starting out? Should they immediately run out and hire counsel when they're reading through contracts and estimating jobs? At what point should they start to bring legal into their business?
Well, the first step that I would say, if you are starting out as a construction business, whether it's just you, your wife, your husband, whomever, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you are incorporated correctly in something that best suits you. An LLC is not for everyone. So I know it's just a catch-all phrase and everyone starts that way. And in
Right.
fact, I started that way and it was a mistake. Once I understood the taxation laws and what was most beneficial to me being a construction company, it wasn't an LLC. The second
Right.
thing is that, of course, you want to have someone look over your contracts or look over the bidding documents so that you understand what you're looking at. So even if you have a contract and you just pay an attorney just once to give you like a boilerplate contract that you can
Yep.
use to ensure that you're covered, that's better than not having anything at all.
Any recommendations for a younger first-time contractor when they're going out and retaining a lawyer? Is there sort of any interview questions that they should be asking? Kind of building that trust.
Yeah, not lawyers are not one size fit all, and so you definitely want someone who understands construction law and contract law because construction and contracts are a niche field, and so you want someone who understands the business so that they can better educate you on what you may need to add, or may need to ask, or may need to delete, or what's in your best interest when you are doing business for the first time. Because when you are starting off, you just want a contract. You don't even think about like all the things that kind of can go wrong. And most of the time you get a contract, the first contract sucks. It's not
Right.
good. It's too cheap. And you
Yeah.
just want to get out there. Then you get in there and you're like, what was I thinking? It's not good. And
Yeah.
that's definitely the worst feeling that you could have, is going on a job every day that you absolutely hate, or that you feel that you have been undervalued. It's everything will just be, it'll just be a catastrophe from beginning to end. So yeah.
But then if it's your first job, you have to get out there and you just absolutely have to crush it and make it your best portfolio project.
Yes,
Difficult, but at the same.
there's a happy medium, but that
Right.
goes into doing your due diligence, and there's no lawyer required for that. If you are starting a business or thinking about starting a business, you should already be in the mode of doing historical data, and that is basically researching what the comps are for your area, for your business. Are they doing public work, private work? What are the going rates? What are the equipment rates? What are the prevailing wage labor rates, if applicable? So that you can
Right.
understand how much money do I need to really get started? And also, what are the jobs going for? I mean, it's especially if you're doing public works, that information is free on the internet.
Mhm.
Anyone can look it up. But I always am surprised that people don't do it. Just
Right.
that cuts the competition right there. Look at what your potential competitors are doing the work for, so that you can kind of work it into your estimate to see, hey, this is where I need to be, or can I afford to do this, or can I not afford to do this job?
I think that touches on my next question a little bit here. So, you started as an engineer. You've made it to a CEO of a successful company. Are there any, skills required, to sort of bridge that gap?
Yeah, when it came to becoming an engineer, it was really just making the transition of doing all the jobs. I went from admin to doing project coordinator, PM work. I worked on the site, and then I really found the love for estimating. So, understanding the complexity of the job, understanding how many loads you need, how much diesel you need, how many hauls that's going to be. All of those things come into play when you for demolition because those are the engineering aspects of how the job is going to get done. So
Right.
you can either take two paths. You can do on the job training and learn those skill sets, or you can go to college and get a certification to do it and sit for an exam. All of my training is on the job training. And so
Right.
my background degree was in psychology. So my bachelor's was in psychology and minored in business. And so really it was just looking at the guys in the office. Once I saw them fail the test, I was like, he's not that smart. I can do it. So that was really the motivation that I had when I saw the other people that I had here in my mind. I'm like, oh gosh, she's so smart. And then when I saw them pulling their hair out trying to pass the exam, I was like, let me see this book and see. Let me study for this test and see if I can do it. And I did it. So
A psychology degree probably comes in handy with running a construction company, and kind of
yes.
understanding of other people's points of view.
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking like Myers Briggs studies.
Yeah, definitely so.
Um, you've mentioned in the past that you had an employer who really believed in you. And can you tell us a little bit about that, and what impact that had on you, and how that's inspired you today?
Yeah, definitely. I know that some people have the misconception that I hate men, and I don't. Just from my post on LinkedIn, and they're like, "Oh, you're always going in on the men." I'm like, I just want to call out the injustices, but I absolutely love men, and I love all of the male figures who have been a part of my career because we are in a male dominated industry. I would be remiss if I didn't say that. I was able to
Mhm.
get my start from a man. Every kind of pivotal decision in my career was with the help of a man in the industry. And when you have a person, male or female, that is supportive of your career or that kind of shines the light on you to say, hey, these are things that you can accomplish if you set out to do them, or why don't you think about that? It really, really helps, just personally, but also professionally. And so my employer was super supportive of everything that I wanted to do. He was just like, hey, have at it. And I also think that not just him being a man, but working at a smaller company, you can have more attention versus if you're in a
Yeah.
large company of 500, 600 people, you can't really get to know everyone and see what you need to see with every employee. It was a smaller company. It was about 25 people. And so, if I just said, hey, can I try this? Can I try that? What do you think of this? He's like, hey, do it. you know,
Right.
you're a lot smarter than some of the guys that I have here. Just try it. If it doesn't work and you don't like it, it's okay. And so he really helped
Right.
to more than just check the boxes in my career, but really to instill the confidence in me to go after the things.
I've read about how you have really high employee retention and a high percentage of women employees at LMS. Um, how have your experiences and your own uh, opportunity impacted those numbers?
I think it's a matter of this giving people the opportunity that I was given. I say that opportunity is my favorite word because someone took a bet on me with absolutely no skill sets whatsoever to do the field. And I was able to blossom within my career. And now I'm able to give back and do the same thing. And I think when you show people that there is a life outside of them, of what their circumstances are and what they're able to do. And you tell people, hey, I believe in you. I trust that you can do it. That if this is something that you want to do and you want to be able to change your life, I'm fully here to support you. That has worked way more than any safety training, any bonus, anything that I've ever
Right.
seen. And that's really why I started A Greener Tomorrow, the nonprofit, because I've saw the ability to change lives and what it's done to enhance women, single mothers, people who
Hmm.
didn't graduate college, didn't attend college, barely made it out of high school. Construction is just about how much you want to give of yourself to the
Right.
business, like what you want to do. If you can show up and be on time and have a positive attitude, that will take you way more places than any special skill set that you ever have. And there's so many
Right.
opportunities that if you don't like this particular trade, you can find another one, or you can find something else within the business and still be able to stay in the construction industry.
Tell me a little more about A Greener Tomorrow. Sounds really interesting.
Yes, A Greener Tomorrow is my new baby. And so
Yeah.
it started some years ago within LMS, and basically we were doing a lot of housing uh, projects, basically. And so when you're doing that, they have a thing that's called Section 3. And so those are the residents that reside on the properties. As part of the contract through HUD, you're responsible for hiring residents. And what we saw across the country was that no one was hiring the residents because they're primarily women. And
Right.
so we said, hey, we will hire them. And they're like, but you guys do asbestos abatement. What are the women going to do? We're going to they're going to do asbestos abatement and they're going to do
Right.
demolition. So, and the women, we hired men and women, excuse me, we hired men and women, and the women showed up. And
Hmm.
they showed up because they had responsibilities. They had children and they have daycare, and, they are the head of their household. Whereas the men who were the same age, they were single. They didn't have any
Right.
children, or they lived with their parents. And so there was no pressure to get it done. And like I said, they've stayed in this industry. They were popping floor tile. We're not talking about just sweeping. We're talking about actually like popping floor tile and mastic. They are removing drywall. They're pushing wheelbarrows. They're doing all of the hard stuff. And what I wanted to be able to do now is to really help more people with equipment, with operating, and with demolition and asbestos, and just hire more people and present opportunities for everyone. If you're interested,
Mm.
hey, we want to help you.
Um, Super cool. Really glad that you're doing this, and like love learning about it. Um, so I think there's a general message that the industry can be changed for the better. What action items should be taken to foster diversity and inclusion in construction?
Kevin, I don't want to get on my soapbox today, but if you are going to insist that I do, there are a few things that can be done. The
Yeah.
first thing that I tell people and companies about change is, one, being open to change and acknowledging that there are problems. And the problem fundamentally that people have when it comes to talking about diversity and why it makes them feel uncomfortable is a lot of times they don't resonate with it. Like, I've
Hmm.
never experienced that, so therefore it doesn't exist. Or because I've never experienced that, I don't know what it feels like, so I don't know what all the fuss is about. And
Right.
so we all have privileges in life, but when you're talking about diversity and inclusion, and you have the privilege of being a white male in a white male dominated industry, there are a lot of things that just go over your head because it's just not the norm. It's like,
Right.
Kevin, when is the last time that you have been the only person that looks like you at a business meeting or at a job site that you delivered equipment to? The only white male there, and you're like, oh, this is strange.
Uh, with the exception of being a great big bald guy.
Bald is in, so
Yeah.
can't count that. Bald is
Yeah.
in.
No, I mean, that it doesn't happen, of course.
Exactly. And so there are things that even if you are not, trying to be biased, it's just that it doesn't happen, and so it's not on your radar. And so what we've done the last couple of years is just kind of putting it out there and put it on people's radar that there are things that exist. I am a millennial, and I have been called an extensive amount of racial slurs. I've been called more racial slurs than sexist slurs. I'll say that. you know,
Wow.
and that's terrible. And for the fact that we are in,
It's awful.
the 2000s, I've only been in the industry 15 years and I've experienced a great deal of that. So just acknowledging that there is a disparity. And the second thing is being honest about the demographics, when, especially in America, is that the demographics have changed. And so the industry needs to represent all of the people in this country and in Canada about what it looks like. And unfortunately, we've been to our own demise by catering to one target group of people. Now we have a humongous labor shortage of only, over 1 million people here in the States. And the marketing still sucks. You're still seeing women, you're still seeing minorities that don't know that there is a space for them within the industry. Secondly, I would say that people, especially leaders and business owners, they need to talk to their employees. Why go outside and try to think of all these things? Why don't you go to the people who work for you? And even if it's an anonymous poll, to ask, what are we getting wrong? What can we do? What can we enhance? And are you feeling included? Because people need their jobs. They're not going to say, yeah, it's a little racist. It's a little sexist here. We could do better. They're not going to say that because no one wants to be fired. So creating a safe space to make an inclusive culture, workplace culture for everyone who is there, creating activities. One of the big things is everyone doesn't know how to ski shoot, and that's not a thing. Everyone doesn't play golf. And so making activities that are just not catering to a certain demographic and making them inclusive. Something as small as that makes, builds camaraderie, builds employer satisfaction. And thirdly is to just do it. Even if it's wrong, even if you don't get it right, just try. Try and see what will work and go from there. Companies are so afraid of the optics of getting it wrong that they just refuse to do anything. Versus just saying, hey, well, that didn't work. Let's just go and try something else. But if you're talking to your employees, or even if you're hiring a consultant to come in and help you navigate the situation, you really wouldn't have to worry about getting it wrong because they know, they work with your company, they work for your company, they understand the nuances and demographics. And, if they can come to you or someone else to say, hey, these are the things we can improve upon.
Kind of sounds like starting a business. The whole discussion of just get started, get your first customer, just get started, try harder, do better. Yeah, I love it. I also love the anonymous survey that you're talking about in the middle there. It seems so obvious. Talk to your team. How can we do better?
Because when we are leaders and as business owners, we have a little bit of an ego. And so we think that everything we do is the best decision for the company. Or even if everyone's not happy, the majority of you are going to love this and appreciate it. And one day you'll see why I did it this way. And so we don't always, make the right decisions. But if we want to keep the best people, if we want to create a safe space for our employees, we have to kind of do things differently and listen to the people who work for us and work with us because they see things that we don't see. I mean, some of the best ideas, even when it comes to doing the work itself on the job, we kind of have an open policy of if you think that we can get this done a better way, a quicker way, a more efficient way, say something. Don't, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But let us know. If you come up with an idea like, hey, why don't we do it this way? If it makes sense, we're going to roll with it.
Right.
Take the ego
At Dozier,
out of
we
it.
try and put our, we try and tell people that it's, almost more of an expectation. Not only is it a safe place to put up your hand, but hey, we're doing something different than, has ever been done before. We're hiring really, really bright people. We expect you to put up your hand. That's why you're here. You're part of the team.
Exactly. Please share your ingenuity so we can get this done.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Jennifer, I kind of asked this before, but I'm going to ask again. So as a construction company, we always like to ask people what their favorite piece of equipment is. I'll hand it back over to you.
Yes, we did mention it. Being that I like big machines, I'm always going to go with an excavator for sure. So if it's got a grapple, something like that. That's my that's the go-to machine. And equipment has come so far. So now it's just like it's so cool to see everything that they're doing with the heavy equipment these days. It's pretty. It's a little late, but it's okay. We're late. We're late in the construction game, but it's better late than never. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, there's some amazing tech out there for sure.
I'm really
Jennifer,
curious. What do you think
yeah.
about the electric heavy equipment that's coming out?
Oh, I'm super excited about it. I think that it's early. I think that if I was buying equipment, and I'd love to buy equipment again someday, but I would want to own it, but I would hesitate a little bit, just let it get out in market for a little bit longer. But I'm definitely a supporter for sure. When I was working in the field, a very distinct memory of mine is, being in landscaping, that smell of diesel exhaust at about 6 o'clock in the morning, it used to just make me want to throw up, right? Before you've had your coffee. I could do without that for sure. Yeah, I'm a supporter. It's a little bit early. It's coming. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm really interested. I agree. I'm really interested to see how because in my mind I'm like, how are you going to charge it on the job site, or what if someone forgets to charge it? That would be my thing of like, is there like any backup diesel, that you can use, or how would it work? Because I could just see
Right.
someone forgetting to, charge it, and then, okay, there's your entire day. Like, how would that work?
So we used to be in, again, it was a landscaping company, and we did a lot of snow removal, but we also did a lot of summer maintenance. And I've seen that equipment come a long, long ways, especially the handheld electrical power tools, like weed eaters and leaf blowers.
Mm-hmm.
I've started to buy some for myself personally, even though I own the gas stuff. I probably should sell the gas stuff. It just starts every single time. You don't have all the challenges of, gummed up spark plugs and old fuel. Every single time you press that button, it works. So yeah, there's a charging issue. There's very, very expensive commercial batteries.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it definitely excites me. I would want to move in that direction.
What kind of generator would you need to charge that thing? Like, what would you
Right.
need, like a power plant in order to get that going? So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely
That would be a challenge.
yeah.
Yeah. So, well, Jennifer, I really, really enjoyed our chat. I want to thank you for being on our Building Builders podcast. For our listeners, where can they find you?
They
are there
can find
social
me
handles or
on the wonderful World Wide Web, LinkedIn, Jennifer Todd, MLS. You can find me on Instagram, Construction Log Gal, GAL. Yeah, or you can just Google me and find me somewhere, and don't hesitate to reach out.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks again, Jennifer. This has been really, really awesome.
Thanks so much for having me.
Cool. Thank you.